everybody. As stated, I'm going to talk to you guys today about my night with Bernie Sanders. He was here in Houston yesterday evening, pep rallying as political campaigns go. The crowd, it ended up being maybe 3,000 to 5,000 people there. It was really awesome to see so many people there, and to see the crowd was the majority young people. Like, it was really nobody there over the age of maybe 30, 35. Like, everybody was really young and excited and being well informed about the voting situation. So I was super excited to see what was going to happen. There were posters everywhere, like homemade posters, like "Feel the Burn" and "Bernie 2016," and then of course there were the actual posters that the campaign produced, and it was really awesome. There was a lot of energy there. He was very exciting. He's very well spoken. I truly enjoyed him. He basically went over 5 topics. He kept it really straight to the point. He got to what we needed to know, the guts of the situation, and really, gave us 5 things that he thought was going to be most important, what he would focus on through his campaign. He said income / wealth inequality, unemployment rates, family values, Wall Street, and the oligarchy of the public election campaigns. So I found it interesting. What he said about income, wealth inequality was basically what we all know. Wealth rests in the top, 1% of the people. 1/10 owns as much wealth as the bottom 90%. He thinks that's extremely unfair. He doesn't want it to be like that. He noted that the Wall Street family, as well as the Koch brothers, he said the Walmart family has more wealth than the bottom 40% of the United States population. And he thinks that is a complete outrage and disgrace. And he's going to make sure that changes, that the wealth is more equally distributed throughout the nation, which is everything we want to hear. So he said the top 14 people had a 114 billion increase in wealth over the last couple years. However, the fact remained that the people were still starving. It was still a lot of poverty, and he said that there will be no more tax breaks for the rich if the bottom people stay in starvation. Now, understand when he says bottom people, he's talking about you and me. He's talking about the working class. He's talking about that poverty line. He's talking about the middle class people. So he is really honing his campaign to fight towards the middle class, which I'm in love with. I think I'm totally for that. Then he went on to say unemployment. He said though they report the unemployment rate is like 5.3, if you include those who are only making part-time work or who have given up on their job search altogether, the actual unemployment rate is 10.5%. He called this a crisis of youth unemployment, where he noted that people between ages 17 and 20 are seeing unemployment between 33 and 51%, depending on demographics. White people are seeing a demographic rate of unemployment at 33%, Hispanics at 36%, and African Americans at 51%. Now, this is completely disgusting. I had no idea this was a thing that was happening, and I think that's really great that he wants to do something to make that change. He also related this big chunk of unemployment to the amount of people that we have in our American prison system. I do apologize. American prison system. He noted President Obama's visit to the penitentiary a couple weeks ago and said that it was amazing. He was the first president in history to ever visit it, and it just pointed out that disproportionate amount of minorities that were inhabiting the jails, and how we need to get more people on the street, and that better educated people meant less crime, and better people at work meant less crime. So he wants to educate them, get them out of jail, get them opportunities to work and have work, and then it'll be less likely that they would focus on crime. Very normal, easy to understand sociology 101. Education, opportunity, less crime. Cut and dry. So Of course, we all want to do that. He said in order to do this, he would start with the low pay wages. He said that $7.25 is a starvation wage. $7.25 is the minimum wage income in Texas, and he said that it needs to be raised over the next several years to $15 an hour. He said that full-time workers, anybody working 40 hours or more, should be way above the poverty line, and they should be, comfortable. If you're working full-time, there's no reason not to be comfortable in your life. He also made the statement for equal pay for women, that we make 70 cents less than our men, and it's not fair. He's going to go and make sure, and if he wins, that we will receive equal pay, and that he will enforce the rule. So that's incredibly awesome. He went on to family values after that. He talked about his family values kind of stuck again, facing some of the disgraces that we see as far as working and unemployment. We're the only country not to have paid family leave. If I was to have a child, it's not guaranteed through our American government that I can have paid time off. Also, paid sick time. He said that as well as the middle class works the longest hours of any people on earth. And that 85% of men and 66% of women work more than 40 hours a week. And he said it's really unfair that with all the work that we do, where we aren't getting paid time off. And he cited the workers' rights rallies from 50, 60 years ago. And he said, we are not a beast of burden, and we deserve these times to be with our families. It's not always about work. We deserve the opportunity to enjoy life like any other people. So that was awesome. He wants to start a massive federal jobs program. This is how he's going to fix all of this. He wants to start a massive federal jobs program. This program will focus on rebuilding the infrastructure around the city. When I say infrastructure, I'm talking about levees, dams, bridges, roads, bayous, you name it. He thinks that they are in tremendous despair, and if I look around the city, I cannot say I do not agree with him. So in order to fix this, he said it will be $13 million worth of repairs. So that will create 13 million decent paying jobs. Sorry, it'll be $3 million worth of repairs, creating 13 million decent paying jobs. That'll get the unemployment rate down, get people to work, less crime, and also allow people the opportunity to spend time with their family in a positive way. So this would be awesome. He then turned his attention towards Wall Street, as naturally he is totally, completely against the greed of Wall Street. Like, it was amazing. Like, I was like, yes, like I hate him too. Like, it was awesome how much he just really was like, I am gonna hone in on Wall Street. I mean, it was incredible to the point I leaned in and was like, he needs to be careful because he needs this money for his campaign. So, what he said about Wall Street, he said that because of Wall Street's greed, we received the worst global turndown since the Great Depression. Now, he's talking about the recession of 2008, which I personally saw firsthand when I graduated high school, how it was incredibly impossible to find work. It was incredibly impossible to feed myself, take care of myself, be independent, and it was just really hard from that time up until now, and it still finds itself in a lot of detrimental places. He wants to bring back the Glass-Steagall legislation, which means that the Wall Street will have to answer to somebody. They'll be policed, they'll be watched, they'll have to play fairly, and if anytime they're not playing fair, that someone will be there to hold them accountable for their actions. He wants to break up law in financial institutions. He cited the fact that because some of these great big institutions were about to fail and they had this wonderful, bailout for them. He said if we could do this bailout because these institutions are too great to fail, then they're too big to carry themselves on their own, and it needs to be broken up into smaller to smaller departments, and that will make it easier to carry themselves. So he basically says too much wealth is being concentrated to one area. He wants that broken down. He wants to provide more wealth to the nation. Completely reasonable thoughts. He called out the Koch brothers. He said that they were determined to, end Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and many other things. They didn't want to talk about the environmental issues of as fact as human activity was causing the climate to change and a climate breakdown. And he said that Koch brothers were willing to make that a hush project. And in order to do that, they had recently pledged $1 billion to this election. And this $1 billion is more than either political party had pledged. So that's more than the Republican Party, as well as more than the Democratic Party. And one particular family could do that on their own. He thinks that it's not fair, and that he really would like to see public campaigning, public funding for campaigns. Meaning that you can only campaign with the amount of money that is funded by the government, by the budget, and that money will be used to forward your campaign. You can't get any large donations, because these large donations lead to oligarchy. He knows that the government is now in a position to be bought. He knows that because of these large institutions, they have their own agendas, and they will buy out political parties and buy what they need from the system and have that person elected so they can push their own personal agendas. And he really wants to end that. He wants campaigning to be about justice, to be about politics. He wants it to be an opportunity for us to sit down and come together and make a decision about what's right for the forwarding of our country. And he said it's not fair that they don't get the opportunity to do that, because they're constantly being bribed by this money from campaigns. Yeah, great views overall. I thought these were awesome ideas from him. He didn't finish there. He went on to talk about college. He basically said that, it was by this point he got really to the point. College should be free. That was his idea. He wants college to be free, and he thinks that Wall Street